You guys, Tyler Henry is a clairvoyant who captured America's attention by communicating with A-list celebrities, deceased loved ones, and sharing their messages from beyond in his hit show, Hollywood Medium with Tyler Henry. The show returns this week on E! With more celebs and breakthroughs for its 4th season. Take a look.
I'm Tyler Henry. As a medium, I've been able to deliver messages to Hollywood's biggest names.
Hey, Tyler, how are you?
I've been waiting to meet you.
Talk about overwhelmed. Oh my God.
When I pull up to a client's house, I still never know who I'm about to read.
Howie! Hello, camera!
Oh my God!
How's it going?
Chris Harrison. I have never done anything like this.
No one's gonna believe this.
I want to know what's going on in your brain.
That's a lot to process.
Mind blown.
Wow, Tyler.
And my job is to bring those messages of healing, closure, and hope to as many people as I can.
It's probably gonna get real personal.
I'm making an effort not to cry.
It might touch on real personal family stuff.
I know in my heart she's gonna come back.
They're proud, so that's a message.
I'm not angry anymore.
He needed to hear what Tyler told him today.
Oh my.
It's really powerful to make those connections.
Wow.
That was awesome!
The season premiere of Hollywood Medium, Thursday, February 21st. And catch up anytime.
Everyone, please give a warm Bill Brunch welcome to Tyler Henry. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, wouldn't miss it.
We're excited to have you, so tell us a little about the show.
Yes, so Hollywood Medium is now in its 4th season, and this season we have a whole new range of celebrities, ranging from Rebel Wilson, Sofia Vergara. There's been so many, so it's going to be an amazing season.
Yeah, and what can we expect from this season in particular?
Yes, well, this one is a little different. You'll see a lot more of the behind the scenes from previous seasons. I actually got my brain scanned during this season, during a reading. So you'll see how that was conducted. For those of you who've seen previously, I read Dr. Drew. And him, coming from a scientific background, had that experience and didn't really know how to explain it because he went in not probably expecting it to be real. And after that, he contacted me and we were interested in kind of maybe following up and seeing just kind of biochemically what was going on in my brain during a reading. So
Can you tell us, were there differences?
There actually were. So they hooked me up to this like neurofeedback thing. I looked ridiculous. It was like on, and basically as I was doing the reading, they found that my brain waves were changing in a way that was really abnormal. And by the end of it, they were actually really surprised that I was even like conscious and speaking and like being able to talk, because they were like, his brain waves look like he's asleep. So we're definitely gonna have to do some follow-ups with that.
So does not happen in normal life? Like in this conversation, your brain is acting normal?
I mean, I have no idea because it was really just under the brain scan, but apparently when I do a reading, it does change. So
That's really cool. You just you mentioned Rebel Wilson earlier.
That's right.
I know you had on Chris Harrison, Sofia Vergara.
Yep.
Are there any special sort of breakthroughs there that you can tease?
you know, there always is one. I feel like
Yeah.
every reading has some big nugget, but my reading with Sofia Vergara was particularly intense, just because her brother had passed away and he was murdered. And basically what ended up happening was he came through really clearly and had messages for his daughter. And they were very personal and very intimate. Well, it ends up his daughter, Sophia's niece, was watching the reading in the other room. And I didn't know this. And so everything I was saying was applying to her, and she knew exactly what it meant.
And he probably knew that, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So on Hollywood Medium, which we see in the clip, you read a plethora, a diverse group of celebrities ranging from all different backgrounds. Does that get intimidating at all?
In season 1, I think it was more intimidating because, you know, I never know where I'm going or who I'm reading. And for those who don't know, that's a huge part of the show. I never know until the door opens. So I go into this and Oprah could open the door for all I know. Maybe season 6. But yeah.
Hey, put it out there.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Oprah.
right? We're manifesting it.
Yeah.
Manifesting it. But it can definitely be nerve-wracking. Then, as time's gone on, though, I found that it really is one of those things where when you sit with a person and you delve into their personal life, it's like the cameras melt away, the person's not a celebrity anymore, and you're just talking to a human being that really needs something.
Well, that's why the show, I think, resonates so well with viewers, is because you're talking to these uber famous people and on a very personal level, seeing them break down all sorts of walls. There was this clip that I got to see of Chris Harrison. It's so funny. Like you said, you come on not knowing who they are. You didn't even know who he was when you saw him. And he's just like, I host a bunch of shows. You're like, cool. And he goes like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like, oh, you know that one. Yeah. What was it like reading him, who is someone who's like on TV, what seems like 72 hours a week.
Yeah.
With how long The Bachelor lasts.
Well, it was so interesting because going into that, I wasn't sure what to expect because I had no idea who he was.
Right.
And so as I sat with him, he was very skeptical.
Right.
And going into it, I don't think he'd had any medium experiences before. When I sat with him, I made an immediate connection with his aunt who passed away. And there were some validating details that only his mom knew. And that kind of sealed the deal for him. But he was actually there to hear a message from a mentor of his who'd passed away. And this individual passed away in a really unique way, like a way that most people don't go. And you'll actually see how that kind of panned out in the reading. It was really fascinating seeing how that came forward, and he ultimately got the validation.
Do you find it more interesting and more useful when they are more skeptical of you?
I think it's more interesting when they're skeptical.
Yeah.
Because I get to sit down with them, and I really don't mind either way. When I sit across from a person, I've dealt with religious skeptics, scientific skeptics, all have sat in front of me. My goal is just to leave people better than I found them. And oftentimes when you have more of that transformation where someone goes and doesn't believe and then they end up believing, it can be very cathartic.
And how's it been from this journey you've been on, realizing you have this gift and now making it a profession?
It's definitely been an experience. I mean, for those of you who don't know, this all started for me when I was 10 years old after I had a premonition of my grandmother's death. And growing up, we didn't talk about this kind of thing. And as time went on, from the ages of about 10 to 13, I just started interacting with people and getting feelings that I couldn't explain. And by the time I was 16, I knew I wanted to turn it into a profession and really help people. And at the time, I thought I was going to do that through hospice nursing. I went to college to try to become a hospice nurse. And that obviously didn't work out. It was just word of mouth spread with the readings. And before I knew it, I had to make a choice.
That's really cool.
Now you're on E.
Oh, shucks.
You and the Kardashians.
I know.
Hospice nurse to E.
It couldn't have been further from what I was expecting.
No, it's great.
I really
You're still helping people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What is it that you are seeing or hearing when you're doing a reading?
Well, it's multifaceted. So I always say my sixth sense uses the other five senses to communicate. So when I sit with a person, I'm not seeing your dead grandma standing behind you. That would make my job really easy. In fact, it's actually really just a series of impressions. When I sit with a person, I basically enter into a daydream-like state where I have to be kind of conscious or conscientious of things that I wouldn't normally be. And so scribbling is my way to do that. And I basically relay anything that I hear, smell, feel physically. I have to kind of figure out why I'm getting these changes, as it can be information. And when I'm able to do that, I'll deliver a message, and the client usually validates it.
Yeah. Is it difficult to get into that state sometimes?
It can be, but that's why I have that process of scribbling. For those of you who've seen the show, you'll know that I scribble, and that really just kind of facilitates that connection. It's my cue to both those on the other side and myself to kind of start turning on and start connecting.
So I went to a medium recently, which and I found out some interesting information, but my question is, as someone who grew up really Christian and really religious, we have this sense of like heaven and hell.
Sure.
Can you see people who were bad people in your readings, or do they like not come to you as spirits because they're on like the dark side?
Great question. I've actually had a whole range of people come through, regardless of if we'd consider them good people, bad people, people who've done good things, people who've done bad things. What I have found from the other side is that fundamentally, I believe our consciousness continues on. I don't claim to see a heaven or a hell. I don't claim to even know or understand any of that. But what I do know is as consciousness continues on, I think we see the ripple effect that our actions and our inactions had on the world around us. And so when we transition, I think we reach a higher state of consciousness, ultimately, where we're able to take accountability, see how we made others feel. And ultimately, I think that's judgment. That's the judgment we come to. I don't necessarily believe it's a bearded man in the sky giving that judgment, as much as I think anything a person does, they see how they affected others with it, for better or for worse.
That's heavy.
So, yeah.
And so I have a question, because sometimes, this has happened to me a couple of times, when someone on the street will randomly stop me and be like, I need to talk to you to relay information.
Yes.
So like, do you think that someone who gets a reading should be someone who seeks out a medium, or should they just wait for them to come to them like a person on the street?
I definitely think a reading is the type of thing that requires a time and a place. And I really liken it to therapy. You wouldn't have an effective therapy session in 30 seconds in front of Subway. In the same way, you probably aren't going to get a full psychic reading that way. I would say, with that in mind, if someone does come up to you and says, hey, I have some information, then tell them, okay, well, what is it? Because sometimes scam artists will try to seek out people and say, hey, I have something I need to tell you, and for $500, I'll tell you more and more. Don't fall for those scams. I think people who are legitimate, you'll have heard about them before in most cases, and word of mouth spreads, and it's a powerful thing, and you should be able to seek it out. I don't think it should seek you.
Nice. And is there anything you suggest someone not do when they go to meet a medium?
Yeah, I would say, if you go to see a medium, just be very conscientious of what you're saying, how you're saying it. Really, I think if you're dealing with someone who's authentic, you'll be able to feel that. You know your loved ones more than any medium, so you'll be able to know if the information that's coming through is conducive to what you know about that person. I would say it's important to get specific details and information, validation I call it. It can't be general, can't be vague, and also shouldn't just be oriented around names because those are researchable. So when someone tells you, their last moments, last words, childhood memories, that's how you know you're on the right track with someone. But let the medium do the talking.
Yeah. Are you ever relaying information that is sort of like I'm wondering if I spoke to someone who is deceased and they were like not happy with how I was living my life.
Right.
Would you ever be like, hey, listen, your great grandpa, he's not too happy that you have this job you have.
I think that because they go through a process on the other side, I don't think they're as worried about our realm, our plane, our human matters as much as we may think or like to think. But what I do find is information will come through that oftentimes is kind of a warning or a red flag. Grandpa's saying, hey, you need to get your heart checked, and if you don't do this, this is going to happen, and then the person has a heart attack. So there's times where that has happened.
I'm always curious, like in a big group like this where we have an audience, is that hard for you? Do you feel things coming in, or can you shut that part of you off?
So you'll actually see in the upcoming season, I actually do live shows in front of 2,000 to 5,000 people where I go out into the audience, I do group readings. So I've definitely had to kind of get used to that and being in front of groups. And the only way I've been able to do that is really being able to turn on and off. By having my process of scribbling, that's how I kind of turn on. Versus if I were always on, I feel like I would constantly be reading.
Yeah.
It'd be really stressful. So.
You mentioned your tour, it's called Life Lessons I've Learned from the Departed.
That's correct.
So what can people expect if they come to your show?
Yeah, that's a 23-city tour in 2019. I'm going all across the country, and basically I just share the life lessons that I've learned from over 1,000 readings, and I do some readings for the audience, and you can see the process in person live.
Yeah, so can the audience do anything special to like ensure a reading, or is it just sort of something that you
pray to grandma really hard?
Right. No, I mean, I feel like people want to know because they want to come see you, and I'm sure they want to like get in touch with their loved ones.
I believe that whoever comes through in these readings is meant to come through, and even if everybody can't be read, I think there's something to be said about the healing and the validation that other people get. And if you can see a reading and see that someone's loved ones are connected to them, then you can take away the fact that even if you're not getting a reading personally, your loved ones are connected to you.
Yeah, that's something nice to think about. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.